Welcome to Your Infinite Health. Are you getting older?
Are you feeling it?
How would you like to do that in reverse?
We're your host,
Dr. Tripp
and Lene.
We've run an integrative medicine practice for 13 years.
Together, we have 60 years of combined experience helping clients.
We've helped tens of thousands achieve success in health and live longer, happier lives.
In this show, we'll cover peer-reviewed and evidence-based integrative approaches to creating the health you've always wanted.
We also share professional experience we see in the field every day.
So if you're ready to feel, look, and live your best life, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Your Infinite Health podcast.
Tripp.
Lene.
Oh my God. I hate to tell you this.
Oh.
But I feel like I have to confess.
What?
I got a parking ticket the other day. It's really weird. I don't know why.
A parking ticket?
Yeah, I mean, the sign where I park said fine for parking.
Huh.
Fine.
Oh,
fine.
No.
Okay. Have you had your coffee yet this morning? That was the joke.
Fine for parking.
Fine
okay.
for parking.
Great.
Dope.
You were so serious.
I know I did that really well. I bet I could be a really good stand-up. Like, I don't know, maybe not. My humor is kind of dry and sardonic, but it was really cold this week for Louisiana. It got below, I think it got down to 19, and they closed, the city shut down, all the schools closed. But I think it was really more of a concern for ice. A lot of people were criticizing the decision to close down. I like it when Hayden doesn't have to go to school. I did nothing. I literally did nothing. And I felt a little guilty about it, but I kept trying to tell myself I'm not guilty and that I deserve to do nothing because nobody else in the city is doing anything either, unless you're a gunner, and go you. But I did nothing. So we have a guest, and he was information rich and he talked really fast. I'm so proud of myself. I think I kept up pretty well. So, listener, our guest today is Dustin Baker. He's the president of Bioprotein Technology and creator of BioPro Plus. And with years of experience working intimately with some of the world's most elite professional athletes, trusted physicians, and even international private security and military personnel, his passion remains the same: to help individuals maximize their physiology and cognitive potential safely. Since his 20s, Dustin has been instrumental in the product design and brand development for natural products in the professional, athletics, fitness, and medical supply categories. Join us and welcome Dustin. All right, Dustin, thank you so much for joining us on Friday morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you guys' time and having me on, and I'm excited to chat with you and talk about all kinds of fun stuff, integrative medicine.
Yes,
Absolutely.
So you are the president of Bio. I was trying to read your email, and I'm slow. I'm like PR.
It's okay. I hear you. Yep, it's pretty simple when you sound it all out. It's bioprotein technology, absolutely. But it'll make way more sense after you ask me what I actually do for a living and all that stuff, and then it'll be like, oh, okay, I totally get what you're talking about now.
Yeah, well, so tell the listeners and me how you got into what you're doing today, what it is, how you what was the journey that you took to get to where you are? It's not a big question.
So, yeah, how did I get here? I got to be honest with you. It kind of chose me. I didn't go to school for this. I hardly went to school at all, to be honest with you. So, and I barely graduated at that. So, I always start this kind of origin story as how I grew up. And I think it's important because not only is it relatable probably to many people in your audience, because it's a very common story, but also it's things that happen in your past kind of lead you to things inadvertently. And it's just like, oh, how did I wake up here? But you can kind of track them back. So I grew up, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, a single parent household. I had two siblings, and I would say we were on the lower middle class, to be conservatively speaking. And my mother and my grandmother's goal for us was to just be able to eat and to make it to school. Did we have enough gas for my mom to get to work and to get us to class? And the reason why that is important is because that's a lot of families these days. Things are tough, times are hard, and things like nutrition, health, even sometimes basic medical care, or even just knowledge of your parents, knowing things like that or how to best set you up in life, they escape those people. They escape those family situations. It's nobody's fault. My parents are not bad people. Other people's parents are not bad people. It's, where is your focus? Our focus is to have food, water, maybe a gallon of milk, and I got to get to school. And that was our focus. And we didn't have any type of nutritional education, any type of health education outside of the school system, which is, I would say subpar. Okay.
Isn't that square
And
pizza on Fridays?
what's
And
that?
fish stick, square pizza on Fridays, and
We had circle
fish
pizza,
sticks?
and I will tell you that circle pizza, I got a lot of great memories for that circle pizza. And I was joking around with my wife the other day about having like lunch money, and you would, I got like $2.50 a day for lunch if I didn't have my lunch made, like if we were running late or something. And if my mom only had a $5 or like something else, I was like, oh, it's going to be a great day today, because I would get to have, and this is exactly what we're talking about, I would either get to have like, the brownie, or my wife's favorite was like the Nutter Butter peanut things, which were not mine, but that was her thing. Right. And so, but those are the choices that were made. All right. And bad habits like that, or poor nutrition, leads to overweight kids. Overweight kids with bad habits lead to unhealthy adults with even worse habits, whether it's smoking or drinking or drug use. And I can't say that I escaped any of those things in my early 20s, like trying to, with no, 20 something with poor nutritional and health habits, going into the, the real world and college and drinking and partying and all of these things lead to very unhealthy adults, which is absolutely what I was. I have no shame in saying that. Poor habits. And I had a friend who, and I tell this story all the time. He may be famous by now, I don't know, but I tell this story. I had a friend that kind of intervened in my early 20s. Was like, hey man, why don't you cut out all that bad stuff and go work out with me? And as small as that little change was in my daily existing habits, that workout kind of woke something up in me where I found myself very interested in health and wellness. And at that time, I'll be honest, I had tons of time on my hands. And I found myself learning everything I possibly could about human physiology, workouts, human performance, nutrition, everything. And I would tell you that little workout that day was, I used this analogy the other day for the first time, and it was great. It was like this snowflake in the first part of the snowball as it would start to roll and gain traction or start to grow, because that led me to my first, being part of gyms and my first job and taking over facilities and learning more and more and becoming under the tutelage of Olympic decathletes, and then working in professional athletics with athletes from all over the world, the NFL, the CFL, college prep, pro day, combine stuff, to owning my own facilities. And during that entire process, and all of those ventures in between, I mean, we're covering like 20 years. I found this company because we're in Tampa, Florida, and there was this lab here in Florida, and we utilized. They made a ton of different formulas, but I really honed in at about 3, and I utilized them through every facet of whether it was human performance, whether it was human optimization for midlife, right, men and women, or whether it was even college prep, guys prepping for their pro day or their college signing for football. And what I found is that they worked extremely well for a broad range of individuals, repeated results. Now, they benefited different groups differently in optimal ways, in different ways. But the purpose of why I'm telling you this is because I found these formulas, they worked really great. I didn't actually know all of the intricacies of how well they worked, but their application worked. They were safe, they were repeatable. And I finally came to a point in my career when I had some interest from some other individuals who wanted their next project. I was exiting my other project out of football, and I knew that there was something there. I knew that these formulas had power. I knew that they were great for a ton of different individuals, and they were being held back by the inability of the individuals who had access to them for the messaging and getting them out to the rest of the general populace. And so we went in and we purchased and acquired the company in 2018. And in the last 5 years, we've grown exponentially. We're found in 40 plus countries, and we have physicians from California throughout the United States to international to Canada to South Africa, all over the place, applying these formulas with their patients. During this entire process, what I came to find out was their application in the hormone and wellness space. And what I mean by that is that the basis of these formulas are, and here's where we get to the name of the company. The basis of these formulas, and the most important one that we've basically sent internationally at this point, are growth factors. Growth factors are really cool. They're just protein cytokines. They're proteins. They're amino acid chains, which is where bioprotein technology comes from. Growth factors are simply the end result of hormones like human growth hormone that trigger cellular change. So instead of giving someone a hormone replacement, which is medically necessary in certain aspects, and I don't disagree with hormone replacement when medically necessary, but for other individuals who are not necessarily interested in taking on a synthetic drug that replaces a hormone that comes with potential side effects or manipulation of the glandular function to create more of that hormone, we're able to give the individuals the same benefits of a hormone replacement without actually injecting anything, without causing the negative feedback loop and suppression of their natural hormones, without manipulating the glandular function or causing things like carpal tunnel or water retention or insulin sensitivity issues and all this kind of fun stuff. So basically, I found something that works. I loved it. I used it. It sucked me in. I learned everything I could about it. And now I just do everything I can to get it to as many people on planet Earth as possible.
And
Thanks for listening to me just run my mouth for 5 minutes, by the way. I appreciate that.
That's our joy, is listening to the guest talk.
Absolutely.
I hope so, because I will go if you don't shut me up.
And so you're specifically talking about HCG, right?
HGH, actually,
Okay,
human
I
growth
always get
hormone.
those two
Human growth
confused.
hormone. Yep.
Mhm.
Human growth hormone is the world that we play in. So growth hormone is secreted by the pituitary gland. It gets sent to the liver to be converted into growth factors, which is what we were just talking about.
Okay. So talk to me about this synthetic versus yours, because yours is
Sure.
not synthetic, but other things on the market up until what you are presenting have been synthetic.
And one of the
Well, you have three. Go ahead, doctor.
one of the questions I had too was whether it's a secretagogue or is it actually a prohormone that gets absorbed?
Yep. So I'll answer both of your questions at the same time. So like we were talking about, we work in the growth hormone space. Okay. Growth hormones, one of the master hormones. It's not sex dominant. Okay. So it's not like testosterone and estrogen, which are dominant, whether you're talking about males or females. It's absolutely equal for both men and women. And it's essential for a ton of different stuff like metabolic function, wound healing, muscle recovery, human performance, sexual function, all that kind of fun stuff. The issue what most people don't realize, because today we're focused a lot on, we work with a lot of men, but we're even with women in menopause is, testosterone is the answer. Well, testosterone is only half the puzzle. You have to address the growth hormone that declines as well. Growth hormone declines every single year after you finish puberty. In extreme cases, it's 50% by the age 35, which is why, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, human beings come in, they're 44 years old, they're 45, 50 years old. They wake up, they're like, I don't look like I used to. I don't feel like I used to. I don't know how this happened. It happens very quickly. We have a physician here in town that likes to say it's like a paper cut every day, right? So as soon as you finish puberty, it's a little paper cut every day. You don't really notice it, but you wake up 44 years old, you're covered in lacerations, and all of a sudden, okay, I feel massive blood loss here. There is something very wrong. A lot of those things, andropause, menopause, growth hormone deficiency, or growth hormone decline. So to doctor's point, is it a secretagogue? Well, in the growth hormone space, you have an actual synthetic drug injection replacement. Okay, you are replacing the drug. That drug came out in the late 60s, and it was originally extracted from human cadavers, so dead bodies. And then they came out with it was originally created for children who have human growth hormone deficiency syndrome.
Right.
They are not growing, right? They literally lack the hormone or are super deficient in the hormone to grow. So at that point, that's a pretty serious issue. I'd probably be willing to take anything, right? And then clearly that's not feasible, nor is it probably very marketable as per your reaction.
Right.
So you have, recombinant DNA extraction from a petri dish. You have a synthetic growth hormone, which is great. It's medically necessary for different people. In the 90s, I would say late 80s, 90s, it gained a lot of traction for aesthetics and human performance, fun stuff like that. Got a bad rap because of some bodybuilding stuff. We can talk about that if you want, but it's irrelevant for this part of the conversation. And then you have what Dr. Tripp's talking about, which are security-gogs, which are your peptides. Okay. So those are manipulation of the actual glandular function. We like to think of it as you're squeezing the gland like a lemon to create more juice, to create more growth hormone. Either way, it's got to be converted by the liver into growth factors. Enter your third option, BioPro Plus, which is not a hormone. It's not a secretagogue. They are simply very complex amino acid chains. They're protein cytokines that your body naturally creates anyway. We're just giving them to you directly. You take them sublingually, so you don't have to inject. You don't have to inject them. You don't have to nasally spray them. I mean, you could, but the method for extraction and preservation would be pretty painful for that. But you can take them and they absorb directly into your mucosal lining, so we can get them into your bloodstream as effectively as possible without a needle. And you're just taking the cellular signals directly. You don't have to manipulate the glandular function. You don't have to inject the hormone. Those are options. However, the FDA disagrees with both of them kind of for aesthetic purposes and performance purposes. So depending upon where you live, you may have access to them, but they can be very expensive if available at all. Growth hormone on the western side. Where are you guys at?
Louisiana.
You guys are Lake Charles, Louisiana. Okay. I was
New
just there
Orleans.
earlier. Well, last year. Yep. We
You were
work
in
with
New
clinics.
Orleans, or where were you here last year?
I flew into New Orleans. So we work a lot with military veterans. We work a lot with tactical groups. We've even been tested by the FBI and some of their very specific groups, blind tests by them. So I was in Louisiana doing some training myself and working with some tactical guys. And actually a lot of the I forgot what the township was, but right outside New Orleans with their SWAT team working on different training stuff.
Oh, fun.
But we're very active in that community. But yes, we have clinics right down the street from you, actually, in I think Covington or Mandeville. I think there's a few over there. Anywho, you have multiple options, but the peptides, depending upon where you're at, as well as getting at in California, a growth hormone treatment's conservatively going to cost you several $1,000s, if that's even possible, up to a full regimen, depending upon how much you're taking, is going to be around $10,000.
Wow.
So yeah, and that depends on what is allowed in that state, so regulations, and available the actual product. Now with peptides, we don't know what's going to happen with that. Everybody can speculate, but the secretagogues Dr. Tripp is talking about were Schedule 2'd and banned in the later part of November of last year. And that's that. We are fully FDA compliant. We follow every rule. We're registered. We don't actually, we play in a gray area where we don't necessarily are subject to the full regulations of a synthetic pharmaceutical drug. So we have
Is that because of the formulation?
Yes, and we're technically it would be considered bioidentical, though. So the growth factors are molecularly identical to what your body is already producing. So it's not synthetic drug. It's technically an OTC. However, we do only provide through approved physicians and always have. So it's an OTC product. So it's great for clinics to have access to not only fill the gap they might be losing out on in peptides as the compounding pharmacies run out of their actual product. But also it's great for patients because there's a level of safety there that they can either dip their toe in the water of, hormone therapies without necessarily taking the hormone, or someone like myself I don't medically need a hormone therapy, but everybody likes to be optimized. And I'm not necessarily interested in subscribing to the needle full on as a man with testosterone, and I don't need it. So, my own product for myself, I definitely, get high on my own supply.
Sure.
It's a much better application for myself, and clinics all over the United States, I agree with us.
Very cool. Go back to the bodybuilding thing.
Yeah. Well, that was, 1990s, I was just a kid, but I get that. We talk about human growth hormone, and what's really crazy is earlier in my career, I would get sent around to educate doctors on hormones, because unless you are actively attempting to learn about anti-aging medicine, regenerative medicine, and hormones, it's actually not something that, depending upon the specialty, is pressed upon in medical school, right? So you know, back then I would have to go around and explain to a lot of physicians, and still do to this day, what growth hormone actually does and why it's not scary and how important it is. Because today, as we said earlier, testosterone is, you know, the big drug. I'm in Florida, and you have a McDonald's, you have a Starbucks, and you got a TRT clinic. So you know, all of them are cash pay. But you can get your coffee in the morning, you can hit your lunch, and then you get your injections later. But anywho, in the the 90s, and well, the 80s was kind of the resurgence, or the beginning, in at least in the United States, from my understanding, of people working out every day and starting to get into health and fitness. And it not only just as a the Arnold days of bodybuilding and stuff like that, but everyday human beings, like it became part of the natural there was communities that started to create it. It was a normal thing, right? Aerobics and all this kind of stuff.
Jazzercise,
All that fun stuff.
Summers,
yeah, and wrestling was huge, right? I'm a Tampa. Remember, wrestling's monstrous. That's our whole thing here. So you have a community where aesthetics and performance, how we look, how we feel, how we're performing, is extremely important. And in the bodybuilding space, which still continues clearly to this day, is a better, faster, stronger. What can I take? What is going to, get me to the next level very quickly? Human growth hormone has always been part of those regimens because it does very specific things. I would say this is, in comparison to other drugs, absolutely safer than things like trenbolone or decaderabolin or other extreme steroids. Now, what happens is in these communities and in the bodybuilding world, you're not just taking one drug, you're taking a host of different things. Now, everybody has their own, special cocktails that they believe in, but human growth hormone was very popular back then. And through that time, you had people dying, some pseudo famous, some famous, whether it's wrestling or whatever, people dropping dead in parking lots. And there's kind of fall guys for these different types of things, whether it's just steroids, and human growth hormone gets lumped into the generalized term of steroid. Well, steroid could mean 30 different things. And so it became, scarier for the normal human being to use. Also, during that evolution, the regulatory bodies also started to kind of phase it out from an aesthetic and a performance use. Okay, so as those things happen, clinics are still businesses, right? Many of them are cash pay. They still need to do business, and selling a product that's heavily regulated that could get them in trouble with the medical board. And as those things increase, you have prices increase. Selling somebody a $3,000 a month treatment or $10,000 a month treatment will only last so long, and it slowly falls to the wayside. So whether it was an addition of the negative connotation related to other performance enhancing drugs, which got looped into with added higher regulations, cost inflating, and the lack of people able to afford it, it slowly kind of disappears off the map. However, that sucks, to be honest with you, because the science is actually quite clear where you need the growth factors that are converted by the growth hormone to even optimally absorb testosterone. So that's a proven study for optimum testosterone use for absorption rates. So not having the same type of intent of reducing your aging clock by only applying maybe half of the puzzle with the testosterone or with something else, but not addressing the human growth hormone, I think a lot of patients are left with unanswered questions that they may not actually even know that they have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of stories of guys going to those TRT clinics, getting just don't even get me started on the kind of subpar dosing and lack of follow up and anything. And it's just like testosterone's one thing. There's all these other components to your health that you need to take into consideration.
We get a lot of business from physicians who are, I don't want to use the word dosing, but are prescribing testosterone, and patients are not responding to it. There's multiple different reasons that could be. Where we come in is, again, we're applying the growth factors that are necessary for that absorption. So we see incredible results from blood panels that they send in that shows the actual absorption rates from bioidentical to synthetic.
I have to echo what Lene says. I've seen literally dozens of cases come in here with people coming in from these clinics that are giving testosterone. They're totally inadequately dosed, supervised, and it's like there's no knowledge base as to what optimum levels should really be, and what associated cofactors are necessary to optimize its effectiveness. And it's really it's just a fad, and it's a source of revenue, I feel, for many doctors.
I agree. Because if you can inject these days, if you're allowed to inject anything, whether it's Botox or whatever, you can start getting into the hormone space without, yes, you probably have to go get some accreditations and stuff like that. But it ain't as much as people think it is. And
I see a lot of OB-GYNs that have like transitioned from one side of the body down to the other. And I'm just like, stay in your lane.
Well, yeah, the market dictates where people typically go, whether you agree or disagree. I mean, you have people, you can go and have somebody injecting Botox at 11 a.m. and someone injecting testosterone, the same person injecting testosterone at 11:35. So it's, I agree with you. I'm a specialist. I don't play in any other fields outside of exactly what I know, what I'm talking about, and what I do and focus on. I absolutely care. I don't care less, but I focus on exactly what we do and exactly what we're doing. I'm a huge proponent of that, whether it's business or just life.
Right.
But I would completely agree with you.
So getting back to the HGH, what have you seen with respect to the need and then the results in men versus women?
So if we're talking about growth hormones specifically, we look at a lot of downstream effects from the growth hormone because, again, we play in the growth factor space, and different growth factors that are found within our materials do different things. So when it comes to, and again, to speak on the synthetic drugs part of it, where we were talking about what ranges are normal or abnormal, et cetera, because our products are molecularly identical and they're completely non-synthetic, we don't have the ability by design to put you into an abnormal range. Okay, what your body does not use, it's going to excrete through urine or sweat. Mm-hmm. So we want to fill your gas tank up. We don't have the ability to continue to pump gas spray all over the place when a match lights and you have a massive explosion.
Your analogies are great.
Most of them come up just as I'm talking. And like sometimes in my head, I'm talking to you and I'm like, how did I come up with that? I have no idea. I appreciate that. But that's how I learn, right? And I think that's a lot of people learn is you can spit all the science you want. I'm not a physician. I'm not a scientist. Okay. So I have to understand just like everybody else does. And analogies are how human beings can relate without actually having to understand.
I certainly relate to gas spraying all over the place.
Gas spraying like Zoolander, if you've ever seen that. Gas spraying all over the place. Yep. So, yes. So we don't have the ability to put you into an abnormal space where I think, which is great. That's why we operate. If you want to go into the abnormal space, go do it. The other drugs work. I'm not saying that they don't. Do they work for everybody? No. Does our product work for everybody? No, nothing does. But you want to go do that? Go do that. If you want to be Brock Lesnar and be the Kool-Aid guy and break through a brick wall, in a few months, okay, fine. Those aren't our goals, but I'll send you to a doc who can help you out. Anyway, when it comes to the growth hormone, I think it's massively overlooked. Because it is where you have something, and I do speak on testosterone a lot. I'm a 38-year-old man. That's the deal. That's a lion's share of our business. Actually, from the clinical side, females and helping them to get testosterone is a huge part of our business because women are not necessarily real interested in taking a synthetic testosterone injection when they hear that they need testosterone during their menopause. So we offer them a difference to, hey, this is going to help you feel better and get the same type of benefits. You don't have to take the needle. So huge in the clinical space for us. But when it comes to growth hormone, and we're focusing on different little growth factors, people are really focused on testosterone, but they don't realize that it's the cell signals that are actually differentiating and multiplying cells. So when you're looking at testosterone for men, they're like, I want to have bigger muscles. That's great. They enlarge the cells themselves, but they're not necessarily triggering the actual multiplication and differentiation. So you're not necessarily taking and creating a long-term change here, where if you see someone who's on testosterone, they come off. I mean, it's pretty insane, actually. We work with a ton of combat athletes that shall remain nameless that love testosterone, and a 2-month difference of coming off of the needle is insanity. But anyway, it's a different person. Anyway, we're looking at creating, real cellular change. And what people don't realize is that the reason why, and I'm sure you guys do, but the reason why things like your skin starts to sag, or your body is changing, or you're getting, we'll stick with skin, collagen cells in your skin, is because your cells are dying off faster than they are being multiplied or replicated. Because that's how cells, I don't want to use the word grow because it's not grow, but differentiation and multiplication of cells. Yep. Yes, is how your skin stays plump. Let's say that. So as growth hormone declines, the cell signals responsible for these functions decline with them. So if you have skin on your face and it's plump and it looks great and you're 25, phenomenal. But as you age and that growth hormone comes down, the growth factors that are triggering the cellular differentiation of those skin cells starts to decline as well. So as those skin cells continue to die off, the ability and your body's speed at which it's replicating those cells goes down as well, which is why that is literally just the definition of aging. Now, when you're only applying and you're only worried about just testosterone or just a different hormone, you're completely missing the master hormone for most of these functions, which is growth hormone. And because physicians at this point, they don't even test for IGF-1, which is the metabolite of growth hormone. That's how you test for growth hormone. They're not even included on basic blood panels. Wow. So it's not just being like, well, it is. It's being completely forgotten about and completely overlooked. So whenever we talk to patients and we get questions all the time, it's like, oh, what do I do? Do I need this or not? We're like, well, how do you feel? But if you want to take it a step further, what was your I get blood panels every 3 months. When was the last time you had your IGF-1 checked? Because if you're not asking for it directly, you are 99% of the time, you are not getting it. And that's the only way to test for growth hormone. You don't test for growth hormone. You test for IGF-1, which is the direct metabolite growth factors that we've been talking about.
Right. And I can't tell you how many people come in and are so suboptimal from perspective of IGF-1s when I test. And that's part of my routine panel, I guess. And I have to add to,
you're one of the few then, Dr. Tripp.
Well, we are. And I would say to those people, stop going to whoever you're going to. It's not working for you, and come to Infinite Health.
Yeah. Fly to Louisiana, man. Go knock yourself out.
So I wanted to reinforce what you're saying too, is that the pathways that IGF-1 and growth hormone, those pathways activate, are actually reparative intracellular pathways that help the cell not transform into what I like to call welfare cells. Some people call them zombie cells. And those are cells that are still there consuming resources and taking away from the worker cells, but at the same time, they don't do anything. And Lene calls them Netflix and chill cells because they
Netflix and chill cells. I like zombie cells. I can utilize that one. Wait for my next interview. I'll probably use it. I'll give you credit.
Right. But yeah, so the reparative pathways that are activated by the growth hormone derivatives are key to long-term survival and longevity and all those things. So just adding to, the detail that you've just.
No, I appreciate it. I think growth factors are massively overlooked. In fact, most people don't even, a lot of physicians don't even really know the term anymore. And if you start looking into growth factor studies in science, you will find that a low, I want to say this the right way, but you'll find not only just a decline in growth factors, but the growth factors are leveled in a number, just like everything else. And you'll find that decreased amounts of growth factors can be tied to, number one, erectile dysfunction is like the number one. Erectile dysfunction, precursor to diabetes, all kinds of neurological diseases from Parkinson's to ALS to MLS. I mean, we are working with a national a neurological testing company, and they were very interested in bringing out our products because we were working together on how many studies and how many different neurological disorders can be actually tied to lack of growth factor. Now, those growth factors were different, whether it was nerve growth factor, whether it was vascular endothelial growth factor. Many of them were actually insulin-like growth factor 1 and 2, but you can tie so many different ailments to the decline in growth factors specifically that it just, for somebody who's, yes, I'm in the medical space, but not a physician, or I don't own a clinic, right? to see that from the outside looking in, it's like, how is this possible? How is this not how is this not a bigger issue? And I don't know if it's a monetary gain, right? Maybe there's not enough cash in it for individuals. Maybe it's complete lack of education. Maybe it's maybe it's time for more education. I don't know, but at this point, that's literally become our job, is to, hey, you just need to know about this.
Yeah, Dustin, some of the things that and all of this biotech that's evolving, and the information that you have and that I have, it's evolving from what actually happens in the body. Unfortunately, it can't be monetized by the pharmaceutical industry as is. So the pharmaceutical industry needs to modify. It needs to have some unique approach that modifies and they can patent so they can make the money. And so you can't take a natural, it's like exosomes, it's like growth hormone, it's like all of these things. If they can't monetize the development of it and the research component of it, so pay for the research and all that, then and justly so, they can't make money. They don't want their companies, they don't want to lose money. So you understand there's a real challenge from a research standpoint to using bioidentical hormones, bioidentical growth factors, all of these things that are identical to what we produce. They can't be monetized. So there are small studies that are being done and that support their use, but to have a real good prospective randomized double-blinded trial, hugely expensive, and it's really difficult to obtain.
I hear you. We're in the middle of some of those right now, and it is not like we did this for a few months, it's good. It is a very long, drawn out road. We're learning good and bad of it. Trials is extreme. They're intense. So I totally understand. I totally get it, and it is not a inexpensive process to participate in.
So there's I think underlies a lot of the reasoning for why it's very difficult to get the bioidentical biologics, approved, so to speak. And 80% of the FDA's budget is paid for by pharma. So
I hear you. That's why I'm very happy with our position, because they literally just banned our number one competition, and secondly is we are fully compliant, but we do play in a gray space that is a little bit more, I would say, protected than off-label use synthetic drugs.
Good stuff.
So, is it expensive? So somebody on this regimen is going to be on it right for a minute or two?
That completely depends on the individual's goals. So if you are, and I won't use their names, but I'll use specific scenarios. If you're a professional athlete and you are using this to prepare for whatever competition or whatever you're doing at a very specific date, you can use it for several months, gain its benefits, and stop using. Does it pop a drug test? No, there isn't a drug test around that can literally track, growth factor use. There isn't something there. And because it doesn't put you in an abnormal space, you can't trigger a test. People don't realize that. I've worked with some very high level athletes. I am not one of them. I just, happen to be in those spaces. And a lot of people use performance enhancing drugs to do things or schedule out for them. Whether you agree with it or not, it's irrelevant for the sake of this conversation. However, many of them use them and need to prepare their bodies for, let's just say game day, whether that's a match, whether that's a game, whatever. And they need to clean out their system. So we have athletes that use our products to maintain the performance that they've gained and keep that performance until their game day. And we also have individuals, so that'll be for a few months. And then we also have individuals who, maybe they're experiencing insulin sensitivity issues that they've created themselves that have been brought on by pharmaceutical drug use. I mean, a lot of people don't understand how much pharmaceutical drugs are selective poisons, whether you like it or not. And that's a term I've taken from a physician, not from myself. They're selective poisons. You have to, do they work? Well, a lot of them, yes. Do they work for everybody? No. But do they work? Yeah, sure.
They work to cover the symptom, but they
Correct.
don't get to the root.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have a decision to be made. This isn't anything. This isn't any investment, period. Monetary investment, business investment, health investment. If you want to take a pharmaceutical drug, you have to take the benefits that are associated with the drug, acknowledge the potential for side effects and risk, and weigh those
accept
out
that
for
you may
yourself.
bleed out of every other orifice of your body and have diarrhea and poop in public. But you won't have allergies anymore.
Those things can happen depending upon the drug. Again, but you and I might agree on those things. A lot of people have different perspectives, and they need to weigh the benefit to cost ratio of the. You throw me so far off with that. I've completely lost my train of thought. I had a punchline at the end of this. Okay. So you have to outweigh. I lost my entire thing. Remember. Sorry. So it's okay. It makes for great material. You can cut that up, put that on Instagram. You'll get shared all over the place. So you feel free to use my face. So you have a cost to benefit ratio. You got to choose what's best for you. So when you're looking at individuals who might be experiencing things like insulin sensitivity, that's what we're talking about. Insulin sensitivity. Many people have this like unwanted weight gain. They don't know how they got it over years and years. And it's like, okay, especially females.
Right.
Okay, can't lose the weight. We're on a diet. We're working out. Can't lose weight. Okay, cool. Have you ever, and I'm not saying men don't use these drugs as well, but I would say that they are predominantly are female use. Birth control, antidepressant medications, women overwhelmingly use both, at least in this country. I can't speak for Indonesia, but for the United States and Canada, women extremely outweigh men for use of antidepressant drugs and prescription birth control, which both lead to insulin resistance and how your body actually uses insulin to use your food as an energy source and store it as fat. So those are insulin sensitivity issues. So if you're an individual using BioPro Plus, you might be using it for a much longer period of time because we're trying to give you those growth factors to then help insulin sensitivity. IGF-1 being the specific growth factor, has plenty of science behind it for improving insulin sensitivity and diabetes, all kinds of fun stuff. So you might be on it for a longer time. And what's cool is, especially in women, we've seen improvements in TSH levels. So they're actually their thyroid function with the product. We've seen it in men as well. But so you might be on it for a longer period of time. Weight loss and any type of weight loss regimen, whether it's working out, fitness, which are the same thing, food, stuff like that, isn't going to be a 3-month journey for anybody. And if you think it is, you're making a poor investment because it's a longer journey than that, and it takes time. It takes you a minimum of 6 weeks to even clear a fat cell. When you burn fat, the cell actually fills itself back up with water, and then it releases that over time, which is the fat cell shrinking. But it takes weeks to do that. So you're in at a basic of 6 weeks. So if you're a performance athlete, you're just using it for a few months, awesome. Knock yourself out. There's no negative feedback loop. It doesn't suppress your natural production of hormone, so you'll be fine. You can come off, cycle it, whatever you want. You don't need to cycle our product for that same purpose, but if you'd like to, knock yourself out. If you're somebody who's using it for a long, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Dustin. I think that's one of the major benefits is of a bioidentical that works by the innate metabolic pathways, is that there are feedback mechanisms that control overage. And so if you're, it's just like the IGF-1, if you're stimulating the production of IGF-1 all the time, just uniquely IGF-1, what happens is your IGF-BP3 goes up, and your IGF-BP3 then binds all of it and makes it less bioavailable for usage in the body. So in fact, allowing those mechanisms to work naturally actually protects us from too much effect, so to speak.
1,000,000%. It's called, you said it yourself, negative feedback loop. And people don't think about that. People, again, I know I focus on testosterone, but guys don't, it's getting younger and younger and younger when they're putting guys on the needle. And they're not talking about a lot of this stuff. They're not talking about the fact if you put a 28-year-old on this and they're on this for 20 years, they're not going to be able to have children.
Right.
So, it's stuff like that. But that's negative feedback loop. It's going to shut down your natural production. And to your point, doctor, it raises other issues like testosterone and the estrogen balance, which is a whole nother problem. Exactly. And let's just say, because I said this 3 years ago about peptides, and I do claim that I take lots of credit for that statement. 3 years ago, I was in Las Vegas at a large conference speaking to physicians saying, hey, if you guys keep prescribing peptides like this, somebody's going to get mad and they're going to say stop. and you're not going to stop. And they didn't. And they said, stop. And you guys didn't. And boom, now you're where you're at. I foresee something similar happening with testosterone replacement. I don't see it happening as fast. I do have a year in mind that I'm calling out, but I think they're going to start highly regulating synthetic testosterone use.
These are Dustin Baker's predictions.
100%. I'll absolutely say it. I say by the year 2030, you'll see testosterone heavily regulated, if not allowed. And you'll have an entire other industry that will be created out of that, whether by pharmaceutical industry or any type of company that's going to be looking to mitigate all of the problems. You have millions and millions and millions of men dependent on a hormone drug that is going to spike estrogen naturally that they're not controlling, which is going to throw human beings for a loop. Because when you do that and you remove the testosterone component from their use without the other drugs that are going to, that's why post-cycle therapies exist. But when you start messing with that, you're going to have 100 million guys, whether it be globally or in the United States, that maybe 100 million is way over the top. Let's go with 50 million. You're going to have 50 million individuals that are all dependent on a drug, and the drug's going to be removed. Why? There could be different reasons, but I promise you someone will step in with some sort of a fix or something like that would be massively profitable.
It's a DEA regulated drug already. So,
right. What I'm saying is from an overall, ability to prescribe is going to get worse and worse and worse. I'm saying 2030, I'm giving it a longer runway than the peptides, but that's my personal prediction. People get real mad at me about that. People very close to me, but I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is.
It's nothing to get mad about.
You would
we
be
already
surprised.
run into issues where you're prescribing and the insurance company is saying that our member doesn't need this and you shouldn't be prescribing this member who is this age. I mean, doctors are already getting told how to provide care from freaking insurance companies.
Yeah.
So and what you're saying is this kind of thing's only going to get worse. And you know what that's going to do?
I don't foresee it getting better. I mean, there's not one market indicator that says that's going to get better.
Yeah. Right. So what's going to happen and the unintended consequence of that? I mean, we already have it now where there's going to be black, it creates a black market. People are going to.
There already is with the peptides, but.
Yep. Well, and testosterone.
That's on you.
But that's what that overregulation does. It creates people doing what they think they got to do to get what they think they need.
Yeah.
Well, that is a that's a political issue for a lot of different things of overregulation causing, if it's true or not that they have good intentions, but good intentions leading to poor outcomes.
The government does not have
I try and be objective for the sake of the conversation, but whether you and I agree, we probably do. But I try and stay objective for the sake of the conversation. But
I don't have that reputation.
I get it. But yeah, a lot of overregulation typically leads to poor outcomes from multiple different things. It makes things, whether it be unsafe or leading to other issues. Yeah,
I didn't mean to go there, but we did. But back to expense.
You can go back to your, puking and pooping comment if you want to. It's to track it to the left again.
That would make sense with government regulation. But anyway,
only if you live in San Francisco.
Going back to expense. So you're looking at a couple of different demographics, though, because you're looking at the professional or semi-professional athlete that has a specific need. But then you also got moms with kids in carpool. So is it affordable for, that range of socioeconomic?
So athletes really are not a huge portion of our business. 99.999% of our business is men or women 44 years old to 54 years old. It's your guys, beginning or in the middle of andropause, and your gals beginning or in the middle of menopause. Literally, that's our bread and butter all the way around, whether it's through our, distribution of our products from us or whether it's clinical. It really depends on the affluency of the individual themselves, and it depends on your interpretation of what would be considered expensive or not. I consider $10,000 a month expensive. Our product comes in at way less than a tenth of that. Let's say that. Even in Florida, where growth hormone's $3,000 a month, all things considered, blood panels, needles, all that kind of stuff. We're a tenth of the cost. So I would say it's not comparable to the synthetic drugs. It's a huge save on cash. It would be more of a comparable to a prescription peptide therapy. We're very comparable to that. But typically, I will say, even though we come in inexpensive, I wouldn't say it's the cheapest. We don't make creatine and protein powders here for $50, but you get what you pay for.
Well, also you have to consider what's the expense of not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I hear you. That's always the popular way to explain it to people is we you can enhance things all you want, do whatever, but when people are in pain, whether that's mental pain, whether that's from seeing themselves and not feeling like themselves, or physical pain, whether it be ailments or injuries that didn't heal properly, or it's just really tough and you feel like crap after working out because you haven't done it in 20 years, or your sleep sucks and all these different things. I mean, what's a few $100 to feel better? I mean, that's really the space we are in. We don't recommend our products for people who are, who aren't really invested in it from a total perspective, because we don't want people to think, there's some magic pill out there, because there isn't. It's a holistic approach of addressing multiple different things, whether it be sleep, nutrition, hydration, all that, and then adding in something like our product, which is called BioPro Plus, into the equation to then really send yourself over the way in a good turn, to use it in a good way.
Cool. What is one thing you want the listeners to know?
That people actually care out there about your health and want you to feel better. Like it's not a money grab for every single person. That there are individuals you can seek out, whether it's us or yourselves or other people, that you can find good care and good advice that aren't just going to push stuff on you. And you need to figure out what's best for you and what's going to make you feel better, and then commit yourself to that.
Cool. And where can people learn more about you?
I like people to go to our Instagram channel. It's very popular. It's all user generated content. So it's individuals, people who use our products. They talk about them on there. It's not just some big sales pitch and gimmicky type stuff. It's very educational, and they can see the look, the feel, the brand, who uses the products. They can go in the comments, all kinds of stuff, and they can get questions answered. Where there's somebody working, the messenger thing all the time, and we can also help to answer those questions. And if we cannot, we have literally clinics all over the country. Tell us where you're at. We'll send you to the closest one we can find.
Cool. And what's that Instagram handle again?
Oh, it's Bioprotein Tech. Do you want to try saying it? It's Bioprotein. That's why we do things through the internet, is I can't get slapped across the face for that. Bioprotein Tech, BioProteintech. Hit us on the Instagram. The website's exactly the same. It's bioproteintech.com, BioProteintech.com. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. It was a very it was entertaining and fun conversation to have. I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, awesome. We're so glad to have you on. I mean, I learned a lot as well, so I appreciate that. And listener, I hope you found this informational, educational, somewhat entertaining. And until next time.
Thanks for subscribing to Your Infinite Health. I'm Dr. Tripp.
And I'm Lene. Until next time, feel it, look it, and live it.